Hey, y'all, picture this. I'm standing in the middle of a crowded room, right here in Willow Creek, my little slice of suburban hell, and it's like the air's buzzing with whispers, side eyes, and that thick, sticky tension you can almost taste. They're all waiting for me to crack Ellie Harper, the girl who used to cry too loud, explain too much, and care way too damn hard about what this town thought of her. But I don't say a word, I just stand there, cool as a winter breeze, letting their stares bounce off me like rain on a tin roof. And that silence? Man, it's louder than anything I've ever done. Let me take you back a bit to how this all started, because it wasn't always like this. I used to be the girl who'd trip over her own heart trying to make everyone happy. Willow Creek's a small town. You know, the type everybody knows your business before you do, and the HOA runs this place like it's their personal kingdom. I moved here 5 years ago, fresh out of college, chasing a quiet life with my little graphic design hustle. Thought I'd blend in, make some friends, maybe join the book club or something. But nah, it didn't go down like that. See, I bought this fixer-upper on Maple Lane, a cute little craftsman with a sagging porch, and that house? It became the spark that lit this whole mess. The trouble started with Karen, yeah, that Karen, the HOA president with a smile sharper than a switchblade. She'd strut around in her pastel cardigans, clipboard in hand, like she was the queen of suburbia. My house, with its peeling paint and overgrown roses, was apparently an eyesore that threatened the neighborhood's aesthetic integrity. Her words, not mine. She'd knock on my door, all fake concern, saying things like, "Ellie, honey, we just want what's best for the community, you know? That porch is a safety hazard, and those roses, well, they're attracting bees." I'd nod, promise to fix it, and spend my weekends scraping paint or pruning bushes, thinking if I just worked hard enough, I'd earn my spot here. But it wasn't just Karen. It was her whole crew. Lindsay, the real estate agent who'd whisper about my questionable taste at the coffee shop. Mike, the guy next door who'd complain about my late-night music, even though it was just lo-fi beats to keep me sane while I worked. And don't get me started on the book club ladies who'd smile to my face but gossip about my artsy, unstable vibe behind my back. I heard it all, filtered through the grapevine, and it stung. I wanted to fit in, you know? So I'd show up to their barbecues, laugh at their jokes, even bake cookies for the HOA meetings. But no matter what I did, I was always the outsider, the girl who didn't belong. It got worse when I started pushing back. See, Karen wanted to fine me for not replacing my porch fast enough, even though I was saving every penny from my freelance gigs to afford it. One night, at an HOA meeting in the community center, I stood up, hands shaking, and said, "Look, Karen, I'm doing my best here, but these fines are ridiculous. I can't pay $500 for a porch that's still standing." The room went dead quiet. Karen's eyes narrowed, and she leaned forward, all syrupy sweet, and said, "Ellie, we're just trying to maintain standards. If you can't keep up, maybe Willow Creek isn't the place for you." The way she said it, like I was some stray dog who wandered into her gated paradise, it cut deep. That's when I started reacting big time. I'd argue with Karen at meetings, my voice cracking as I tried to explain why I couldn't afford her timeline. I'd vent to Lindsay, thinking she'd get it, only to hear her repeat my words, twisted, at the next town event. "Oh, Ellie's struggling. Poor thing, probably in over her head with that house," she'd say, loud enough for everyone to hear. Mike would chime in, "Yeah, heard she's up all night working, probably why her yard's a mess." I'd go home, cry into my pillow, then fire off long emails to the HOA, explaining every detail of my life, begging them to see I was trying. I thought if I could just make them understand, they'd stop. But they didn't. They loved at me tears, my outbursts, my desperation. It was like I was their entertainment, the sad little show they could poke at whenever they wanted. I'd see them whispering at the grocery store, their eyes darting to me as I pushed my cart past. I'd overhear things like, "She's too emotional, no wonder she's single," or "That house is gonna fall apart before she does." It was a game to them, and I was losing. Every time I reacted, I handed them more power, more reasons to keep me small. Then something shifted. It was last summer, after a particularly brutal HOA meeting where Karen presented a petition signed by half the damn neighborhood to force me to sell my house if I didn't comply with their rules. I stood there, clutching my papers, ready to plead my case again, when I looked around the room. All those faces, Karen's smug grin, Lindsay's fake pity, Mike's rolled eyes, they weren't listening. They never were. They didn't care about my reasons, my struggles, my heart. They just wanted me to break. And in that moment, something in me snapped, not outward, but inward, like a switch flipping. I was done. I walked out of that meeting without saying a word. Didn't argue, didn't cry, didn't even look back. I went home, sat on my sagging porch, and stared at the stars, thinking, why am I begging these people for a place at their table when they don't even deserve to sit at mine? That night, I made a promise to myself. No more explaining, no more chasing, no more bleeding for people who'd never offer me a bandage. I was going to rebuild not just my house, but me. So I got to work. Not on the porch, not yet, but on myself. I started small, reading books on emotional intelligence, journaling my triggers, learning to breathe through the anger instead of letting it spill out. I stopped going to HOA meetings, stopped answering Karen's passive-aggressive emails, stopped caring what Lindsay whispered at the coffee shop. When Mike banged on my door one night, yelling about my music, I just smiled, turned it down, and said, "Good night, Mike." No argument, no explanation, just calm. And you know what? It drove him nuts. He stood there, waiting for me to snap back, but I didn't give him the satisfaction. The first time I really felt the shift was at the town fair a few months later. I showed up, not to prove anything, just to grab some cotton candy and enjoy the day. Karen was there, of course, holding court by the dunk tank, her clipboard replaced by a megaphone. She spotted me and made a beeline, her voice dripping with that fake sweetness. "Ellie, so glad you could make it, still working on that porch, I hope?" The old me would have launched into a defense, explaining my budget, my plan, my life. But I just looked at her, smiled, and said, "Yup, it's coming along. Enjoy the fair, Karen." And I walked away, cotton candy in hand, feeling lighter than I had in years. You should have seen her face: confusion, irritation, like she'd just thrown a punch and hit air. That's when I realized my silence was my power. By not reacting, I was taking away their script, their control, their whole damn game. And it wasn't just Karen. Lindsay tried her usual gossip at the coffee shop, saying loud enough for me to hear, "Ellie's been so quiet lately. Wonder what she's hiding." I just sipped my latte, gave her a little wave, and kept scrolling on my phone. Mike tried again too, complaining about my roses this time, saying they were overrunning his fence. I nodded, said, "I'll trim him this weekend," and closed my door. No fight, no drama, just peace. It's funny, when you stop playing their game, they start tripping over their own rules. Karen started sending longer emails, each one more desperate, like, "Ellie, we need to discuss your noncompliance. This is a serious matter for the community." I didn't reply. Lindsay's gossip got louder, but it started sounding unhinged, like she was grasping at straws. I heard Ellie's working for some shady online company now. Probably why she's so secretive. Mike even tried being nice, bringing over a pie one day, saying, "Just thought I'd check in, neighbor." I thanked him, took the pie, and didn't invite him in. They were fishing for a reaction, any reaction, but I wasn't biting. And here's the thing, they didn't stop talking about me. If anything, they got louder. But now it wasn't just gossip about my messy house or my unstable vibe. It was, "How's Ellie so calm all the time?" Or, "Did you see her at the fair? She didn't even flinch when Karen went at her." My silence was making waves, and I didn't have to lift a finger. People started noticing the cracks in their stories. Karen's petitions weren't getting as many signatures. Lindsay's gossip started sounding like obsession. Mike's complaints started feeling petty, even to him. They were exposing themselves, and I was just living. Let me paint you a picture of the moment it all clicked. It was a neighborhood barbecue, one of those mandatory community bonding things the HOA throws to pretend we're all one big happy family. I almost didn't go, but I figured, why not? I'd show up, eat some ribs, and leave. I walked in, wearing my favorite denim jacket, hair loose, feeling good. The second I stepped into the backyard, it was like the air shifted. Karen was by the grill, flipping burgers, but her eyes locked on me like a hawk. Lindsay was whispering to her book club crew, their heads turning my way. Mike was nursing a beer, glaring at my every move. I could have crumbled right there, gone back to the old Ellie who'd try to win them over with a smile and a plate of cookies. But I didn't. Instead, I grabbed a drink, found a spot by the fire pit, and just existed. I laughed with a couple of new neighbors who didn't know the drama, swapped stories about our dogs, and ignored the tension. Karen couldn't stand it. Halfway through the night, she marched over, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Ellie, I've been meaning to talk to you about that porch. Still no progress? We're all just so concerned for you. It was a trap, pure and simple, designed to make me look small in front of the whole neighborhood. The old me would have taken the bait, stammered through an explanation, maybe even teared up. But I looked her dead in the eye, smiled, and said, "Thanks for the concern, Karen, but I've got it handled. Those burgers smell great, by the way." And I turned back to my conversation like she wasn't even there. The backyard went quiet for a split second, then conversations picked back up. But I felt it shift. Karen stood there, megaphone moment ruined, her face redder than the ketchup bottle. Lindsay stopped whispering. Mike choked on his beer. They'd expected a scene, a meltdown, something to feed their narrative. But I gave them nothing, and that nothing? It was everything. I wasn't just Ellie Harper, the girl with the messy house anymore. I was Ellie Harper, the one who didn't need to explain herself, the one who'd learned to let their chaos burn itself out. That night, I went home, sat on my porch, and laughed. Not because I'd won some petty neighborhood feud, but because I'd won me back. I wasn't dancing to their tune anymore. I wasn't begging for their approval, their understanding, their anything. I was free. And let me tell you, freedom feels like a cold beer on a hot day, crisp, refreshing, and just a little bit rebellious. But it wasn't easy getting here. Don't let me fool you into thinking this was some overnight glow-up. I cried a lot of nights, y'all, alone in that house, wondering if I was the problem, if I'd ever fit in, if I'd ever stop feeling like I had to prove myself. I'd replay every argument, every snide comment, every time I let their words cut me deeper than they deserved. I had to teach myself to breathe through the pain, to sit with it, to learn from it instead of letting it control me. I read books, watched videos, even started meditating. Yeah, me, the girl who used to think meditation was just sitting still and being bored. I trained my nervous system to stay calm when everything around me screamed chaos. And slowly, I started to see the patterns. The way Karen's concern was just control, the way Lindsay's gossip was just jealousy, the way Mike's complaints were just him projecting his own insecurities. Once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. Their tactics were so predictable, it was almost boring. Karen's emails? Just bait to get me to react. Lindsay's whispers? Just her trying to feel big by making me small. Mike's pie? A desperate attempt to get back in my good graces after he realized his complaints weren't working. I stopped falling for it. I stopped giving them my energy, my tears, my anything. And the more I pulled back, the more they unraveled. Here's a moment I'll never forget. It was a few weeks after the barbecue, and I'd finally saved enough to start fixing up my porch. I hired a local contractor, a guy named Jamal who'd heard about my HOA drama and thought it was hilarious. He'd show up, blasting his music, joking with me about how Karen's head would explode when she saw the new porch. One day, Karen pulled up in her pristine SUV, clipboard in hand, ready to inspect. I was out front with Jamal, sanding a railing, when she walked over, all business. Ellie, I see you're finally making progress. About time. But I hope you've got the proper permits for this. We wouldn't want any violations, would we? Her tone was pure venom, dressed up as concern. Jamal looked at me, waiting for the old Ellie to jump in, explain, defend. But I just laughed, wiped the sawdust off my hands, and said, "All good, Karen. Permits are filed, work's on track. You'll love the new look." And I turned back to sanding, leaving her standing there, clutching her clipboard like it was her last lifeline. Jamal whispered, "Damn, Ellie, you're ice cold now." And we both cracked up. Karen stormed off, and I swear I heard her muttering under her breath, something about ungrateful newcomers. But I didn't care. I was too busy building something, me porch, my peace, my life. That's when the whispers really started to change. People weren't just talking about my messy house anymore. They were talking about me. "Did you see Ellie's new porch? It's looking good. She's so chill now. What happened?" Karen tried to get her at the barbecue, and Ellie just shut her down with a smile. I wasn't trying to be the talk of the town, but I was. Not because I was loud or flashy, but because I was calm, focused, untouchable. I'd stopped chasing their approval, stopped explaining my soul to people who didn't deserve it. And that was threatening to them. Not because I was mean or aggressive, but because I was free. Let's talk about why this matters, because it's bigger than just me and Willow Creek. See, we live in a world that's addicted to drama, to reactions, to people breaking down so everyone else can feel better about their own mess. When you step out of that cycle, when you stop playing the victim or the villain in their story, you become something else, something they can't control. I started noticing it everywhere, not just with Karen and her crew. Friends I'd known for years, people I thought had my back, they'd get weird when I stopped needing their validation. Like my old college buddy, Sarah, who'd call me up, fishing for gossip about my life, then get quiet when I didn't spill. "You're so different now, Ellie," she'd say, like it was a bad thing. But I heard what she wasn't saying. "You're not giving me what I want anymore." And yeah, sometimes I wondered if I was becoming too distant, too cold, like maybe I was losing something by not caring as much. But then I'd remember, I wasn't losing my heart, I was protecting it. I still love, I still feel. I'm just not handing my emotions out like free samples at Costco. I choose who gets my energy now, and it's not the Karens or Lindsays or Mikes of the world. It's the Jamals, the new neighbors who don't care about HOA rules, the clients who love my designs because they're real, not because they're trying to impress someone. Here's the deepest part, the thing I didn't expect. My silence started exposing people. Not because I was trying to, but because I wasn't playing their game anymore. Karen's emails got more frantic, her community standards starting to sound like a personal vendetta. Lindsay's gossip started turning people off. Someone at the coffee shop even called her out, saying, "Why are you so obsessed with Ellie? She's just living her life." Mike stopped complaining. Maybe because he saw how ridiculous he looked, or maybe because he was embarrassed that his pie didn't get him an invite inside. They were unraveling, not because I fought back, but because I didn't. I let them talk, let them spin their stories, and the truth? It just kept shining through. There's this one moment that still gives me chills. It was a town hall meeting, the first one I'd gone to in months, just to see if anything had changed. Karen was up there, droning on about new landscaping rules, when suddenly a new guy, Tom, who'd just moved in, raised his hand and said, "Hey, Karen, why are we still finding people like Ellie Harper for stuff like porches when her house looks better than half the ones on Maple Lane now?" The room went silent. Karen's face turned beet red, and she stammered something about community standards. But Tom wasn't done. He turned to me, right there in front of everyone, and said, "Ellie, your porch is badass. Keep it up." The room erupted in murmurs, some agreeing, some shocked, and I just nodded, said, "Thanks, Tom," and sat back down. I didn't need to say more. My porch, my peace, my life, it was all the statement I needed. That's when I knew. I wasn't just surviving Willow Creek. I was rewriting the story. I wasn't the girl who'd break anymore. I was the one who'd risen, who'd learned to let their chaos burn out while I built something better. And the wildest part? I didn't have to clap back, didn't have to argue, didn't have to prove a damn thing. I just lived, and that was enough to make them question everything. So here's where it gets real, y'all, and maybe a little messy. I'm not saying I've got it all figured out. Some days, I still hear the whispers, still feel the sting of old wounds, still wonder if I could have handled things differently. But then I look at my porch, new railings, fresh paint, roses blooming like they're laughing at Karen, and I know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm not perfect, but I'm free. Free from their expectations, their drama, their need to keep me small. And that freedom? It's worth every tear, every sleepless night, every moment I doubted myself. But here's the twist, the thing I'm still wrestling with. What happens when the town doesn't just whisper about you, but starts to follow? Lately, I've noticed people, new neighbors, even some of the old ones, showing up differently. They're asking me about my porch, my designs, my life, not to gossip, but because they're curious, maybe even inspired. Tom's been over a few times, helping me with the yard, saying he wants to stick it to the HOA too. Jamal's become a friend, not just a contractor, and we're planning a community art project that's got Karen losing her mind. It's like my silence, my peace. It's not just mine, Anna Marie, it's sparking something bigger. And that's where I'm at now, standing on my porch, looking out at Willow Creek, wondering what's next. Am I the villain in their story, or the hero in mine? Maybe a little of both. Maybe it doesn't matter. What I know is this: I'm not here to fit in anymore. I'm here to live, to build, to be so damn real that it shakes the foundations of this little town. And if that makes me the talk of Willow Creek, so be it. Let them talk. Let them stare. Let them try to figure out how I got so calm, so cool, so untouchable. They'll never know the wars I've fought to get here, but they'll feel the peace I've won. So what about you? Have you ever had to walk away from the noise, the drama, the people who wanted to keep you small? Have you ever found your power in silence, in choosing yourself over their chaos? Drop a comment, share your story, I want to hear it. Maybe you've got your own Karen, your own Willow Creek, your own porch you're fighting for. Or maybe you're still in the thick of it, wondering if you'll ever get to the other side. Either way, let's talk about it. What's the one thing you've done to take your power back? And if you're feeling this, hit that like button, subscribe, maybe even share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because this isn't just my story, it's ours. We're all out here, building our porches, finding our peace, and showing the world what happens when you stop explaining and start living. All right, y'all, I'll catch you in the next one. Keep shining.